Hey Bison fans, add a little green in your wallet with the NDSU debit card from Gate City Bank. For every card ordered, Gate City Bank donates $10 to NDSU. Get your Gate City Bank Bison debit card today at gatecity.bank/Bison or instantly at any location. Gate City Bank, for a better way of life. Member FDIC. Hey everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Kolpack and Izzo Podcast, brought to you by Gate City Bank with the Forum's Jeff Kolpack. I'm Dom Izzo from WDAY Sports. The regular season finale awaits North Dakota State. The Bison heading to Cedar Falls, Iowa for the first time in 2.5 years on a matchup with the Northern Iowa Panthers. UNI sitting at 6-4 and needing a win to keep its season going. The Bison with a chance, an outside chance at a playoff seed if they're able to win on Saturday. How much do things change week to week in college football? Here you have, we're despair for Bison fans heading into last week. Then, Jeff, they put together their best performance of the season, and now you went from maybe outside the playoffs to maybe being one of the top 8.
I'm out. Not lost for words,
Yeah,
and we're 1 minute into this.
Lost for words. You're a writer. That's not, not a good sign, man.
It's not a good sign.
Not good.
Well, it's been a strange season, so I guess maybe this is the way it's going with NDSU, with streaks broken against UND, streaks broken here and there. This could be another streak breaker here, 10 in a row at UNI. And here's what I'll just get to the point on this weekend with the Bison, that they have not answered the call on 2 of their 3 rivals. And UND is a rival, SDSU is a rival, and UNI is a rival. Let's just call it like it is. UND, not so much, but now it is. Didn't answer the bell against the Fighting Hawks. Didn't really answer the bell. Certainly turnovers hurt at South Dakota State. Now here we go.
Yep.
The third game of 3 games that you really need to get up for.
Yep.
And you need to play with your hair on fire. Didn't happen at UND. It happened better at South Dakota State, but not at full-fledged hair on fire, go crazy. And you think UNI is going to go play like they did at Missouri State last week?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Not at home.
I don't believe that's going to be the case.
We'll see if this team can answer the bell.
So here's an interesting comment on that. I asked Eli Mostard about how do you bottle that up? How do you? And he looked at me and goes, I don't know. I don't know how we do it, but we got to find a way to do it. And that, if that doesn't typify this entire 2023 Bison football season, I don't know what does, because they don't really know how to either answer it or make it happen again. And that's the thing that's got to be driving Matt Entz crazy about what could potentially happen Saturday afternoon.
And it's not from a lack of trying. They saw a lack of good starts, so you take the coin flip, but that seems to have worked.
Yep.
Win the coin flip, take the ball, and get a lead. That seems to have worked. I don't know what else you can do. It's not like they changed their coaching. It's not like these guys have forgot how to coach.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been to 3, and Entz has been to 3 national titles, 1, 2, been around several other championship organizations. Not like he forgot.
I think, honestly, whoever wins the coin toss is going to win the football game.
Maybe.
I really believe. The Bison have not shown a propensity at all to come from behind yet. They have not rallied to win a football game yet this season. And that does not – it's no longer a trend. This is the 11th football game. This is who you are when we get to this stage of the season.
Well, it'd be a good time to do it if you fall behind.
But they've shown no ability to do such. So why would I believe that can happen? That's my question on that, right?
Some teams are just inherently wired to be this and that.
Yep. And for Northern Iowa, they have done this perennially. So I can't say, well, it shocked me that they lost to Missouri State. I really believe, Kolpack, honestly, who scores first will dictate. If the Bison go out and get the ball and go right down the field, you and I might just say, you know what? Thanks, but no thanks.
Even on senior day?
Maybe. It would not surprise me. On the other hand, if Northern Iowa gets the ball and goes down, that could steamroll the Bison. It really could.
You want to keep that crowd out of it. Hey, I don't think it's going to be a great crowd anyway. Iowa and Iowa State are playing in the afternoon. You got the TV thing. They lost to Mo State. It'll be maybe better than most. But UNI, it's not Montana. It's not UND, not South Dakota State. It's that next level.
You don't think it'll be as loud as UND?
No.
Has potential? No?
I don't think so.
Right.
No. No,
I think there'll be a good amount of Bison fans actually going to make the trip.
When did they storm the field? 2014.
The last time they beat them.
Yeah, 2014. But generally,
but they were humming then. There,
yeah,
UNI was going,
and that was a really good team.
Yeah,
but generally, I think there's some malaise that have descended on the program. Haven't won a Valley title in forever. Haven't beaten the Bison forever. They've fallen behind NDSU, South Dakota State.
Fallen behind the Jacks. Yeah,
fallen South Dakota
maybe
a little bit this year.
Yep.
And so the program isn't what it was. It's never won a national title.
No.
People forget about that.
I'm just really intrigued to see how this is going to play. Honestly, the start of this, it's such a cliche, so people could roll their eyes at it when they're listening to this, but it really is true, especially with this Bison team. The start will dictate everything on how this is going to go.
UNI, and I don't think there's any question on this, has to be the best program in FCS never to have won a national title. The teams they have had, the players they have produced.
Kleiman used to tell us that all the time. I mean, that the team they had was it 2007, I think, when Kleiman was an assistant, and they got Delaware to come there. Flacco's Delaware, and they lost a classic semifinal game. I think he said that was the best team they've had, and they couldn't get over the hump that year. The Delaware came in and beat them. That was tough.
The years I've seen, they've had defensive backs that rival FBS with pro prospects and NFL players.
They've had offensive
David
linemen.
Johnson, linemen, draft picks, high draft picks.
Trevor Penning was a first-round pick. We saw him play in Fargo in 2021. The Saints picked him that April in the first round of the NFL draft. And he was the guy who got abused by Braden Thomas in that football. I mean, the Bison they got to him quite easily in that game. They had the year before that, they had Spencer Brown, who was drafted in the third round by the Bills. So they've had dudes. You're talking on the back end, Omar Brown, Benny Sapp. They've had dynamites. David Johnson goes without saying of how good a player he was. They've had dudes. There's no doubt about it. And it's a different level. It is when I see this Northern Iowa team. I think defensively, up front, not bad. Christian Boyd, you're going to watch him, number 99. He's a dude.
He's big.
Bison going to have to find a way to somehow block him.
6'4", 307, something like that.
But I look at their linebacker. Remember how good their linebackers used to be? Farley's kids were both good.
Yep.
They were both really good players. I don't see that. And especially on the back end, where they're, what are they, Kolpack, 92nd in pass defense?
That's really alarming.
That's so unlike Northern Iowa, and that's an opportunity if I'm Tyler Roll and Randy Hedberg, where your game planning is like, we got the most accurate quarterback in the subdivision. Let's go.
And not only that, not only do you have the most accurate passer in the subdivision, you have a guy who's played there several times. He's from our way in Solon,
Iowa.
Iowa. Talking about Cam Miller, has played there, is comfortable in those surroundings.
He's a water boy there with his dad. He's grown up in that building. We're going to have a feature on that on the news tonight.
He's probably been in there more than I have.
Yeah, he's been there more than anybody, next to his dad and Kevin, who's going to join us on Bison Game Day on Saturday morning. So, and the last time he was there, it was a loss. He lost in the state championship game in 2019. So he's got some. He was on the field for one play in the spring of 2021. He didn't really play in that game. He's going to be, and he didn't play when you and I came up here in the fall. Quincy Patterson was the guy. So Cam's never really played against Northern Iowa.
Is the show going to be inside?
We are going to be inside. I don't know. The temperature looks pretty good for this time of year in Iowa.
Still November.
Hey, you were out bike riding yesterday. What are you complaining about? Before we get into all the brackets and all the good stuff there, David Braun, was elevated to the permanent head football coach at Northwestern yesterday.
What a strikingly ascension of the coaching ladder. Have you ever seen something so quick? This has got to be almost historic. Other than maybe Jim Tressel going from Youngstown right to the head coach at Ohio State.
Yeah. But he was still
he was a head coach still.
Correct.
This guy was a D coordinator and is now a head coach in less than a year from FCS to Power 5.
Yeah, it is remarkable.
It's amazing.
He couldn't have been put in a worse situation, obviously. He was hired in January after the national championship game. Was it 2 days after the title game? He accepted the job at Northwestern. We all know what happened with the Pat Fitzgerald mess that occurred, and Fitzgerald was fired, 2 weeks before fall camp even opens. And we remarked on the podcast, we thought, well, if they win 2 games this year, they've won 5. They will go bowling. I firmly believe they're going to win one of their last 2 games.
They're everything the equal of the University of Minnesota.
Correct. And they already beat the University of Minnesota this year on the football
They're better
field.
in Minnesota.
Yeah. That is remarkable. And he's a good dude, family. He's a great guy, and I'm pumped for him to see what happens now. Literally, he's a Power 5 football coach.
What's the contract?
I haven't seen it yet, but he'll be handsomely paid.
Hey, what's the
imagine.
defensive coordinator contract? 125 here?
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably somewhere in that.
I think it's 120, right in that range.
Yeah. He's going to be over 6-7 mil, I'd imagine. Big Ten? Big Ten football head coach? Yeah.
Who does he take? Does he hire anybody he knows?
Well, that I already had asked about. Does he get his former boss? Does he go grab Matt Entz to maybe be a defensive coordinator at Northwestern?
Saw something online where coordinators now are making $2 million.
Correct. That's why that question was brought to me. I would say never, but I think Matt wants to be a head football coach. So, but do you go and do that to get your name into the Power 5 circles? I don't know. His name's already out there. Ent's talking about in Group of 5.
Yeah, but that's been no breaking news.
But if you want to get into the Power 5 world, dude, is that a way to go?
$1.5 million.
It's a lot of cash, man. Cannot shake a stick at that. That's pretty good. So congratulations to David Braun. Northwestern has 2 games remaining. Like I said, I think they're going bowling. They'll win one of their last 2. That's one of the better stories in college football in 2023. Okay, we have reached the final week of the regular season. It's bracketology week. Everybody's put out their different versions. Our official bracketology show will be on Saturday night, our 11th annual. If you saw my tweet yesterday of the awkward entrances of the Butler Cabinesque, which we started at the Fargo Jet Center in 2012, and it's elevated now.
The wheels are spinning. The wheels are spinning this week.
I'll still tell you right now, there's 2 personal favorites. One is the one we did in the newsroom. You couldn't keep it together for the first minute. I know. Because we totally played the hammed up with the Jim Nantz Butler Cabin. Yep. The other one to me, honestly, is the Vermilion Dakota Dome walk down the steps like we're waiting for you, like you're an award winner. Those 2 are my 2 favorites that we've had.
The problem with that, it took so long.
It did take a while.
Kind of a dead air problem.
I don't think we knew.
I tried to walk fast.
If I was smarter, I should have moved over more so it didn't take so far. But we have a lot of fun with it. And I think in the past, I've been more concerned about getting the most amount of teams. I don't know if I'm more worried about that or getting the seeds somehow in the ballpark this year.
Well, we're going to be under the gun because we're on the road and you got to hit the team charter.
I do.
And so we are going to have to do this in lightning fashion.
We'll get it done.
Yeah.
There's no worries. You want to start with the who's in, or do you want to do the seed conversation first? Where do you want to start with?
Let's go seeds.
So we know, I think, honestly, 6 or 7 of them are already pretty much locked in my mind, no matter what happens this weekend.
Furman, Nichols, South Dakota State.
Well, those are the auto bids. I'm talking for the seed. South Dakota State is going to be a seed. No doubt about that. I think both Montanas, no matter what happens in the Brawl of the Wild game, are going to be seeded.
That's 3.
I think Idaho has done enough, Kolpack, with the FBS win and who they beat.
Even if they lose to Davis.
If they lose to Davis, they're not being seeded. No.
Yep.
I don't envision. I projected them to win their final. I have Idaho as a seed. South Dakota has done enough to be seeded. I believe the winner of the Delaware-Villanova game has done enough to be seeded. They'll be 9-2. I think that's enough to get into the seed conversation there. So that's, if I count, I have 6 right now. Furman obviously has done enough. They're going to win 10 football games. And then there's one out there, and that could be North Dakota State. It could be Austin Peay. It could be Albany, who would likely win the CAA. I think it's one of those 3 that has a chance to be the 8th seed. Somehow, some way, I think that's where it's at. And the Bison, if you're listening for Bison fans, Kolpack, this is how I think it has to go. North Dakota State, has to win, has to beat Northern Iowa. They need Montana to win the Brawl of the Wild game. Because then, by the way, Montana State's 8-3, and the Bison, you could make an argument, could be seeded ahead of Montana State. They both would be 8-3. I'll get to that in a second.
Mm-hmm.
Delaware, I think they need to win because Delaware has a good resume. They'd be 9-2. And then Central Arkansas has to beat Austin Peay because that will give Central Arkansas the automatic bid. They'd be a conference champion, and the Bison whoop them. I know the score isn't reflective. The Bison were up 49-17 in that game. That would be 3 really quality wins for North Dakota State. That's how the path to the seed. In
the
my
seed
mind.
is you need quality wins for sure. And then the problem now is if we hit into the whole 2014 field, quality wins after a while are hard to find.
Yep.
And then they start to go meandering toward total wins, and then all of a sudden Incarnate Word comes in the conversation.
Or quality losses on that. Yeah. Let me give you the Montana State breakdown. Okay. So Montana State, if they lose the Brawl of the Wild, is 8-3. What's Montana State's best win? It's against Sacramento State. Okay. They lost to the Jacks, I know, on the road. Tight game there. They lost on the road to Idaho, and they'll have lost on the road to Montana. Those are 3, I would say, quality losses. But the Bison argument to that says, okay, well, wait a minute. The Bison lost at South Dakota State, lost to UND. They need UND to win. NDSU needs UND to win. That helps their resume. And they lost to South Dakota, who we think is now probably a top 4 seed.
Better losses.
Those are arguably, I'd say that's probably even.
Well, better wins.
I'd say it's right. The Bison have a better wins than Montana State. So if I'm looking at the bracket and they're both 8-3, I would put the Bison 7 and I put Montana State at 8. Because no way can Montana State be seated ahead of Idaho because Idaho's got the head-to-head. So I would put Idaho at 6 and I drop Montana State to 8 if they lose the Brawl of the Wild game. What do you think? Is that completely homerific, or is that a chance to happen?
Well, I think the logic's there. The problem is you have people across the country who don't agree with your homerific look. So it's both.
Yeah, I think the opportunity is there. I really do. And I think for the Valley, they're at probably 5. I'm off the 6 train. I think they get 5 in. The 4 Dakotas, and then it's depends. If Northern Iowa wins the game, they're in. If the Bison win, then is it Youngstown, Kolpack, that's next up at 7-4?
Lost to Ohio State, South Dakota State, USD, UNI. It's 4 pretty quality losses.
And their best win would be whom? That's the
SIU.
SIU. That would be it. Southern Illinois, if they are at 7-4. What's SIU's best win?
Austin P, Northern Illinois.
Northern Illinois.
FBS.
I see that's enough, I think, to get them in. I would take SIU over Incarnate Word and North Carolina Central in a heartbeat.
They're hoping for Austin P.
Right. SIU needs Austin P to win the game against Central Arkansas. That is the intriguing part there. Illinois State is the other team that can get to 7 wins. Obviously, they have to beat UND, but they need Northern Iowa to lose.
Dreadful wins.
And they need Youngstown. They may have, I think you called it on Monday, the worst Division I resume out there.
Yes.
It's hard to argue because they've beaten Lindenwood, your school. They beat Western Illinois. They beat Dayton. I'm forgetting one other team. They lost to Eastern Illinois. It's not a lot of quality there for. I love SPAC.
Sorry, Brock.
Not enough.
Give me watching the playoffs from your lake cabin in Wisconsin.
I don't think that's enough to get them in there. I'll go back, and I've asked this question a couple times over, and it's going to be our poll question tomorrow for Hot Mike. If you're a Bison fan, would you rather be unseeded but go and face a Furman, an Idaho, or a South Dakota, or get the bye but know you have to play the Jackrabbits in the quarterfinal
100%
round?
bye. 100%.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to win a national title, you're going to have to face the Jacks anyway. I'd almost rather face them right away.
You'd rather get them in the second game of the tournament?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rather than playing them
down there, 3 weeks
down
off.
the road.
Yep.
I can see both sides. I really can. I can see both sides of it. But the bye has been proven to be very valuable.
The weather won't be great. That could be a little bit of an equalizer.
Maybe. You never know. By that time, never know. And it might be definitely colder than it was the last time we were in Brookings. That it's certainly not going to be.
Don't give the Jack. If they have playoff momentum heading to Frisco, going to be tough to beat them. Yeah,
they're going to be tough to beat them anyway.
Well, I know, but maybe I think your best chance is a second round matchup.
Be fascinating
with
to
a
see.
seed.
This is the first time, I think, probably since 2011, we're really interested about what's going to happen. 2011, the Bison were 10-1. We're like, boy, how high of a seed? They got the 2. That was the first time that. After that, Kolpack, it hasn't been academic, but we've known.
It's been pretty close.
We've known where they've been.
This has been a decade.
Last year, we were quibbling between the 3 and the 4 seed. This is completely up in the air. Like, for the first time, honestly, since 2010, when we woke up and watched the selection show, I'm like, oh, North Dakota State's in the field. We got to get to work. Like, I believe they're in the tournament. regardless if they win or lose. Now it's a matter if they're playing Thanksgiving or if they're not. And that's the really interesting part of what can happen on Sunday morning.
2010, feels like.
Let me ask you this. What do you think the turnout will be if they end up playing next weekend? I don't think it's going to be great.
11,000 maybe?
I don't even know if they'll get that much.
Depending on the opponent.
Who are you playing? Are you playing Drake? I mean,
10,000.
Right, you're not going to get anybody to come out for that. That's the rub on
you
this.
can do a big ticket discount or something.
I don't think so. Not for NCAA playoff games. That's not happening there. That's the part to me. If they end up playing next week, who's coming here? Because I don't think it's a slam dunk they get paired with a Valley team or a Big Sky team.
Well, you can't get paired with SIU. You can't get paired with UND or UNI or Young. Well, you can get paired with Youngstown.
Yep. Correct. That's one out there they could. That's why I'm awfully intrigued to see what. Oh, and I'm interested as well. If they are playing in the first round, who in the bracket are they with? Are they with Montana? Are they with Montana State? Are they with South Dakota? Are they with Idaho? I mean, I can't imagine the way the NCAA wants to save money that they would send them east, like to Furman or something, or Delaware. You know what I mean? There's no way that's going to happen.
I feel like they're west. I feel like it's just a western.
Either that or they pair them with the Coyotes, which I think NDSU would want another crack at South Dakota. After how the first game went, I think they would eagerly anticipate that. Don't you?
I would.
Yeah.
If I'm South, anybody, I mean, this is the year you don't want to face the Bison if you're a first or second round favorite.
Because you don't know. You get hot.
Imagine if you're South Dakota State, your second round game is NDSU.
Right, because we're in the exact flip of we were the last decade where the Bison were on top. I'm like, wait a minute, we got to play South Dakota State in the second round? How fair is that? That's why I think for teams out there, they don't want to see NDSU that early on. You have a story. It's available right now at Inforum.com on Raja Nelson. There's a guy we've talked about quite a bit who, honestly, I said it on the broadcast on Saturday. He had his best game as a Bison last week in the win over Southern Illinois. It's been a long time coming. Now paired with his brother, who had an interception in the game Saturday, Najee. I was really interested to see how Tyler Roll used him. Boy, that was explosive, what we saw Saturday.
I'd like to see more carries on the backfield and doing some talking to his high school coach for this story that you realize his vision, and he's had it for a long time. It's not something new, that at Lakeville North, they threw him in the backfield for like 6, 7, 8 carries because his junior year, the all-time leading rusher at Lakeville North was a senior, but they throw him, they'd say, Raja, run this play. Now, Brian, you do that same thing where his cut, because Raja had that vision, know where to cut, whether to break it inside, outside. And I think we've seen that with him in the backfield. He's almost, to me, their best running back.
Boy, wow.
He's had the most yards from the backfield, 102 against Western Illinois. I thought he had the best runs last week.
Yes, I totally agree with that. Tamarik's touchdown run was pretty good, especially getting his face mask ripped like it was.
But vision, jump cuts,
he had a
seeing a seam.
He had a burst on it. He had a burst when he got to the outside and was gone. And we've not seen that yet this season.
I'm just telling you what I've seen.
And he was able to catch the ball. He had 2 big receptions. That early one on third down, Cam dropped it in the bucket for 23 yards on a 3rd and 9. That jump-started things on that first drive. He had another one where he caught that he did step out of bounds, that he dove for the end zone. That we've not seen out of him in his 4 years here. We just have not. That was his best game by far. And that's something that gives the Bison offense a little bit of a different swag out there.
It's hard to defend. Yep. Yeah, when you have a guy that can do those things. To me, the closest is Ryan Smith. And if you would have thrown Ryan Smith in the backfield here and there, he might have been doing the same things. He got all his yards on jet sweeps mainly. Yeah. And he was a better receiver. Obviously, he was a pro receiver.
Yes, correct.
But the same size, I think Ryan's a little faster.
I'd say I give the nod to Smith on speed, probably.
But not much.
No, but Ryan was pretty fast.
Yes.
That I'm intrigued. Also, I know they can't count on this, Jeff, to convert a 3rd and 24 and a 3rd and 16, but the catches that Henderson and Green had are playmaking catches. That's what I've been yelling about for a year and a half out of that wide receiver spot, and we saw that Saturday against SIU.
And good for Braylon Henderson he's doing a redemption tour of sorts after dropping that pass in the season opener. And is he coming back? We don't know, but he's a senior. He's a veteran. Yep. I think he's hung with it. That's saying something to me. Maybe that's resonating with his teammates, too.
And I thought Cam Miller had the most interesting quote during the postgame. He said, "Do not count the Bison out. We play our best football in November," and that was by far their best game.
I guess we'll see this weekend.
So, right. That's the thing. Can they build on it and do it again on the road in a tough environment? Because if they win this game, I wouldn't want to be on that side of the bracket, wherever they are. If it's the first round or if it's a seeded team, I would not want to see North Dakota State on your side of the bracket. I will be so bold to say that if they win the football game Saturday against Northern Iowa. If they lose, then we're back to square one and what we've been all year with this football team, frankly.
Then it really does feel like 2010, right? Where that
7-4, exactly right.
Missouri State.
Now, the only thing is, I felt going into that game, the Bison, I thought, had to win it. I think they have enough already that they're in. I feel like
they were hurt at quarterback in 2010.
Well,
Jensen came
back and left that game because he got hurt again. And Jose Moeller came. I don't think we're going to see 3-0 on Saturday, do you?
No.
That's one of the uglier football games I've ever seen. That was something else. What about ending the season on the road? How do you feel about that? Chance to get away here? Can they build some momentum away from the Dome?
Well, no opinion on that other than that's the way the schedule has fallen. It's a statement game to me in the fact that is NDSU for real and taken serious in this playoff run, or are they who we thought they were mid-season?
Yeah. How about for Northern Iowa here? I'm interested in this.
No idea.
We haven't seen the Panthers in person since October of 2021. Theo Day was, I think, in his second start for the Panthers in that game, second or third start when he came to Fargo that day. 14 touchdowns, but 11 picks. And that's, I was talking about this earlier on Hot Mic. That's why I think for the Bison secondary, now with Jaquise Alexander, he'll make his third start on Saturday. I think Najee Nelson's going to play more. There's an opportunity to make a play. Can they make it, Jeff? That's what I need to see on Saturday, because I think Day's going to give them the opportunity to make a play in the game.
And this time of the year, turnovers are everything. It's just is. It's everything. NDSU lost a turnover battle at UND, lost it at South Dakota State.
Yep.
And it was been pretty good, actually, in the turnover margin until those two games.
Yep. They were able to force a turnover against SIU. I know the game was already late, but they did it. And that's something they had not done in their three losses against South Dakota, against the Jacks, and against UND. They've not been able to do that. They do that, boy, they'll be tough to beat. And that's how they've been successful down there. They have gotten to the quarterback, whether it's Will McIlvain, whether it's been any of the UNI quarterbacks in the past. They have got to Sawyer Colmorgan. They've got to him and fumbled the football.
And what does that do? It takes the crowd out of it.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're punting, and the crowd just has nothing to get it going.
Yeah. One thing on that, I will say, Iowa's playing at 2:30. Iowa State plays at night. Is that going to affect things? The Hawkeyes are playing right when UNI's playing.
We always hear it does.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as eyeballs on the TV,
right.
Would you rather go to the UNI game or stay around and watch the Iowa State game on TV, or the Iowa game and wait later on?
Would you want to watch Iowa play football right now?
No.
That is an eyesore to watch right now.
I'd go to the game, but that's just me. I like seeing football up close and personal.
I don't know who's going to go to the game, but it's going to be. I'll be interested to see the crowd turn out.
Unless you're broadcasting.
Yes, exactly. I appreciate that. And don't forget, Bison Game Day is live in Cedar Falls, 10 a.m. on Saturday morning. We'll get you started on WDAY.
Also known as the Nickel Victory Tour.
Correct.
For me.
The final FCS Pick'em of the year.
You are eliminated.
I am officially
Kyle
out.
was eliminated 2 months ago. Logan's 4 games behind.
Hey, Kyle had his best week.
Yeah, he's playing for pride, and I give him credit,
he's trending up, man. So
give
we'll
him
see.
credit.
He's
building momentum for next year.
We'll see if he has another big week here to wrap the season.
I don't think Outer Banks Campbell has it in her to catch me.
We'll be on the air at 3:50. The game is at 4 o'clock. Note the start time, 4 o'clock on Saturday between UNI and North Dakota
Is the nickel,
State.
can it fit in the trailer?
Is it going to fit on the airplane? Make sure you can get it there?
Yeah.
Where is it, by the way?
It's in my office.
It's like locked away, like the real one. I haven't seen it.
I got a stand.
I haven't
literally,
seen it.
I built something like South Dakota State and NDSU do for the marker.
For the marker?
I have a glass case.
Oh, wow.
And it's been there for a long time. And it's going to be here for
another
You haven't.
365
When's the last time you seen it?
3 years.
And that was the lucky Brawl the Wild pick. That when they
Wasn't
scored on
lucky.
the last second
great
play,
pick.
or I would have won it that year.
Yeah, you know what? You can't always win it.
You need help.
It's been a long
You're
time
pathetic.
since I've seen it. For Jeff Kolpack, I'm Dom Izzo. That's the latest Kolpack and Izzo podcast brought to you by Gate City Bank.